Tigers are ready to roar. Nussmeier takes control of a top offensive list from last year, with Joe Sloan calling the plays with the top O-line in the nation. The defense gets a new look, giving Harold Perkins freedom to dominate. From the official news station of LSU Athletics, this is the Tigers Preseason Special, only on WBRZ Channel 2.
Welcome into the 2024 LSU Football Preseason Special. I'm Bree Andrews, joined alongside Jack Schimmel, and we are with you for the next hour, getting you all caught up on the LSU Tigers as they prepare for kickoff in Las Vegas.
And Michael Cobble is standing by live in Sin City, and we'll hear some of his takes on how the Tigers can be successful in this make-or-break season soon. Now, Bree, a lot needs to be addressed with this Tiger team, and Brian Kelly did a lot this offseason to try and have this team competing for championships.
Absolutely, Jack. It is year 3 of the Brian Kelly era in Baton Rouge, and nothing should be new or surprising to him anymore. There's a standard at LSU, and fans expect championship or bust, and that means no less for BK.
Yeah, the Tigers did win 10 games last season, but some glaring issues need to be fixed. That all starts with revamping the defense and finding someone to replace Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels.
It's not an easy task. There's a lot to get to, and we have you covered. We'll dive deeper into these topics and also touch on how much has changed with the 12-team college football playoff.
Yeah, Bree, and year 3 is when most coaches say they really have their imprint on the program. That may be different with the way the transfer portal works now, but Coach Kelly believes this year's squad is in a better spot than they were the last 2 seasons. Coach Kelly has been successful in year 3 at previous stops, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. But here's what Coach thinks specifically about this Tiger team.
We're in year 3. This is the most accountable this group has been. There's trust within the group. This will be the deepest team that we've had. I control what our process is and how we go to work every day. And I can tell you, in year 3, I've had really good success with getting our football team to be the most accountable, the most trusting team that I've had here at LSU. And that's usually been pretty good at my other stops.
Brian Kelly has been a head coach at the collegiate level for over 30 years, and in each of his previous Division I stops, his teams made a noticeable jump in year 3. After 10 wins combined in Kelly's first 2 seasons at Central Michigan, the Chippewas won 9 in year 3. At Cincinnati, success started right away for BK with 21 wins over the first 2 seasons, but then he guided the Bearcats to an undefeated year in 2009. Then came Kelly's time at Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish were 8-5 in BK's first 2 seasons, but then went 12-0 the next fall before losing to Nick Saban and Alabama in the national championship game. Overall, Coach Kelly is averaging 11 wins in those 3rd seasons, which this year would be good enough for LSU to make the college football playoff.
It certainly would, but Bree, if this team is going to make a jump, the defense is going to have to make a huge improvement, and they really can only go up after allowing 28 points of matchup last season.
Yeah, Jack, that's why BK replaced the entire defensive coaching staff from last year and brought in Blake Baker.
Yeah, he poached Blake Baker from Missouri and then got some great assistants to come to Baton Rouge as well. We'll get to those assistants later in the show, but let's talk about Blake Baker for now. He was actually the linebackers coach back in 2021 at LSU before taking the defensive coordinator job at Missouri. In 2023, he led the other Tigers to the 4th best scoring defense in the SEC. Missouri also forced 17 fumbles, good enough for 4th best in the nation. Now in Baton Rouge, Baker's already making an impact on the guys with his aggressive style and believes his new Tiger team can make a jump this fall.
If we do our job, I think we got a chance to be pretty good. I really do. I think we have all the pieces in place to have a good defense. What I want to see is a little more player-led accountability, and guys just doing their job on a consistent basis. If we do that, we can have a good year. We're not there yet, but I think we have really good speed. I think we're physical.
Here's a look at Baker's staff. Bo Davis comes over from Texas to coach the interior defensive line, with Kevin Peoples coaching the edge rushers. In the secondary, Corey Raymond is back in Baton Rouge and wants to make LSU DBU again. Jake Olson is also on the field helping out with the safeties.
The defense obviously has a lot of changes that could make a big difference, but some things have changed with this program offensively. That's very obvious. LSU had a record-breaking offense in 2019, and we thought that wouldn't be done again. But then came Jaden Daniels, and now he is the quarterback for the Washington Commanders. So the reins are finally in the hands of Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, Bree, Nuss has waited his turn patiently. He got to campus in 2021 and stayed through a big coaching change. During his 3 years, he also lost a couple of QB competitions. Most guys nowadays try to find playing time elsewhere in that situation, but he stayed.
And now it is clear that the Nuss bus is on the roll, and the Tigers take the field this weekend. Garrett has stepped up for his team in crucial moments over the past few years, like in the 2022 SEC Championship game or in last year's game against Alabama when Jaden Daniels went down with injury. We know what he's capable of, and that sure is a lot, but going from being the backup guy to now the guy can be quite the adjustment. But 13 has stayed true to himself, and that's carried over to his game.
I mean, obviously, there's a different dynamic, you know, going from being a backup to the starter. But, you know, I feel like, you know, it's just taking the same approach that I've always taken, you know, just trying to lead, be vocal. So that's been the biggest thing for us, is just staying focused on our jobs, you know, staying focused on our tasks and moving as one.
The biggest thing for Garrett, right, and I think you guys have seen that, right? I mean, the growth over the last several years and just being process-oriented. You know, we're obviously going to do things that allow him to be successful. We're going to put him in positions, right, to use that arm, to use his decision-making ability. But, you know, you're going to see a lot of the same things, and then, right, we're always going to build it around our personnel.
Jaden was a great player, but, like, that's always hard on someone who wanted to play. But he didn't look at it as a negative. He looked at it as a positive. And so he stuck it out. He learned, and now he's out there. He's doing what we need him to do.
Jack, there were some coaching changes, or promotions rather, on the offense as well. After offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock left for Notre Dame, Brian Kelly promoted Nuss's quarterback coach Joe Sloan to be the new OC, and wide receivers coach Cortez Hankton to be the co-offensive coordinator. Everyone else staying in their role so that continuity could ease that transition from one season to another. The season starts this Sunday, though, in Las Vegas, Jack. This game will set the tone for the season, win or lose, and LSU hasn't won a season opener since 2019.
Yeah, 4 straight losses in those season openers. The rest of the season does not get any easier. LSU facing tough SEC teams, and with this conference realignment, anything could happen. Let's go out live to Vegas. Michael Cobble is there with his thoughts on what LSU has in front of them this year. Cobble?
I mean, guys, it's going to be another great season of college football, the best probably ever, right, with this 12-team playoff. And you did a good job of addressing the issues that LSU is staring down the barrel of. I think the important thing is to remember here, though, is that they are better than they were a year ago. They might look a little different on offense. They're going to move the ball certainly differently. They won't have the legs of Jaden Daniels to bail them out on third down. But Garrett Nussmeier is going to have to rely on some of those playmakers around him. And lucky for him, he's got a number of them, some guys transferring in, some guys that have been there the entire time. That offensive line is certainly something that makes you think they're going to run the ball quite well. But the biggest difference on this 24 team that I've seen so far is that defense. It is markedly improved. Day one of fall practice last year, we knew that LSU secondary was going to be a problem. Day one this year, it wasn't as glaring of a problem. They still have some strides to make, and they will improve throughout the course of the season. But the important part is I think they're starting from a higher floor, which makes the ceiling that much better for this LSU football team. There's a lot of great potential in front of them. I like this challenge right out of the gate, but I really like the way their schedule builds throughout the course of this year, with some big games on the road, some big games at home, culminating in that home finale against Oklahoma, where the Tigers could be playing for a potential playoff berth.
Thanks so much, Michael. Yeah, we'll dive into the schedule and go over all those games later in the show. But that defensive intensity in practice, you felt it all fall camp. And the Tigers are sure to shock a lot of people this year.
I would agree, Bree. But don't go anywhere. We're with you for the rest of the hour. Coming up, we'll break down all the changes LSU has made to fix that big problem, the defense.
The Tigers preseason special will return shortly. Now, back to the Tigers preseason special.
Welcome back to the LSU preseason special here on WBRZ. I'm Jack Schummel. That's Bree Andrews. We touched on it a little bit earlier in the show. The question all LSU fans want to answer is if this defense can make a big step forward this year. I mean, they allowed 416 yards a game last season under Matt House, which is good enough for 105th in the country.
Not that great.
Colorado State was better.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. The good thing is, though, that Blake Baker at Missouri only allowing 336 yards a game. LSU might have been in the college football playoff last year with those numbers.
Probably. We know turnovers are also a big thing on defense. LSU only forced 14 last year. Missouri forced 19. Now, sometimes you can have a fluke year forcing a bunch of turnovers, but Baker's defensive style looks to be conducive to taking the ball away. During fall camp, we heard all about how this Tiger defense has been aggressive. Coach doesn't want any paralysis by analysis, that's what they call it. He wants his guys to just react and fly around the field. Here's linebacker Whit Weeks on this Blake Baker defense.
Defense is a lot, you get to play a lot faster when you don't have to think about it. So our calls are simple, but they're effective. So he makes the call and you know exactly what you have. One gap defense, they pull, you move your gap, so you get to play way faster. The thing that I'm definitely most excited about is how aggressive we are. This year, we blitz a lot more than last year, and also just the energy that Coach Baker brings in every meeting we go to. There's never a dull moment in this building because he's here now.
Whit Weeks, always a joy to hear from. He will most likely play behind one of the most exciting players on this LSU team heading into the season. It's year number 3 at LSU for Harold Perkins. Jack, you seem like you're ready to talk about Perk. What is expected of him going into this year?
Yeah, Bree, a lot is expected. Harold Perkins has been all over the place since stepping on campus. He's got 26 tackles for loss in 2 seasons to go along with 13 sacks and 7 forced fumbles. The only thing is, after dominating as an edge rusher in his freshman season, he was moved to play linebacker. He wasn't bad by any means last season, but his impact wasn't the same. But Perkins is sticking with it. He's going to play weak side linebacker this fall, and from what it seems, he's balling out.
Harold Perkins right now is playing on fire. Again, have a lot on his plate mentally. We have packages, we're moving him all around, so he's not just playing on the inside. But he's fitting the run as well as anybody that we have at linebacker right now. I think our linebackers are doing a good job overall fitting the run, but very, very pleased with Harold and really his development. Again, you talk about from where we started this thing at the beginning of spring to where he is now, it's night and day. And he's an ascending player. I really think he's not even scratching the surface still of where he's going to be. So I look forward to, every single week him improving, but very, very happy with what he's doing right now.
He's a playmaker, and he's got that swag and that confidence, and he knows he's going to make a play, and then he's going to make the play. And so, I've been really proud of Perk and the way he's, stepped up as a leader, and he's really, really, tried to grow in different areas. And, you can see that on the field. You can see that he's making an effort to do that. And so, at the end of the day, Perk's always going to be Perk, with his swagger and the way he acts. And it's definitely, it's been awesome to see.
I feel like I'm a ball player, so I feel like you can put me anywhere on the field and I could hold my own. So to answer your question, yeah, I'm comfortable. And I trust my coaches to put us in the best position possible to make plays.
All rave reviews at fall camp for Harold Perkins. He'll have a lot of running around to do against USC this Sunday, though.
Yeah, Jack Sports 2's Michael Cobble will be in Vegas to see it all go down. He joins us live once again. What do you think about Perk and what this defense can do this year, Cobble?
Yeah, I think here's the deal with Harold Perkins, right? Everybody expects so much of him. He actually had a pretty decent year by the numbers last year, and everybody thought it was a down year for him, right? Because they're expecting him to affect the quarterback on every play. But the reality of it is Harold's made plays throughout the course of his season and career by just kind of doing what he does, and he's going to do that again this year. I don't necessarily think it matters where you put him. What matters for Harold Perkins is he is undersized, and when he gets caught by an offensive lineman, he doesn't break free. He is basically negated on that play. And so that's what you're trying to do. You're just trying to scheme away, from those offensive linemen and free him up to make plays in space. And that's really what we've seen with offenses do, but that's what we're seeing with this defense, what they're trying to do. You talk about the players and Blake Baker and what he's done. What he's done is essentially free them up to be faster. And it's one of those great things that Nick Saban used to say, I don't care if you make a mistake, but make that mistake going 100 miles an hour because you can then react from that mistake just as fast. And I think that's what you're hearing. We talked to Greg Penn and, kind of about what they're doing with this defense. That's the important thing. Playing fast, playing free enables you to make more plays more often. We're hopeful that'll be the difference, at least with that front seven for the LSU defense.
I think, Cabo, I think you've told me that same Nick Saban quote a few times whenever I'm struggling. You're trying to lift me up a little bit. I think you used that one on me before.
I think I've heard it as well, too. LSU certainly does have a lot to deal with this USC offense, but after the game, they might get a little break.
Yeah, Jack, the next few games on LSU's schedule don't necessarily have the offensive powerhouses. The Tigers will be favored in their first 4 games this season.
Yeah, Bree, LSU should have no trouble with UCLA and Nichols. Expect double-digit wins in those games. I think a road game at South Carolina isn't easy, but I still think the Tigers will win that one. So worst case scenario, LSU, I think, is 3-1 after 4 games.
I think they're 4-0. They're favored in the USC game this Sunday, but the line is now down to 4.5 after being 6.5 not too long ago. These two teams share a lot of parallels after last season, both replacing Heisman-winning quarterbacks, new defensive coordinators, and hungry as ever to get back to the top. It can really go either way, but I think LSU has the better pieces, and sometimes it's all about who wants it more. And just by talking with the coaches and players and watching the intensity at practice, I think the Tigers are that team. We'll learn much more about that game specifically in our pregame special this Sunday. All right, coming up after the break, there's a new quarterback in town. The Nuss bus is rolling, and we'll fill you in on how he's preparing for his big role.
The Tigers Preseason Special will return shortly. Now, back to the Tigers Preseason Special.
Welcome back to our LSU preseason football special right here on WBRZ. We just broke down the defensive changes for LSU this year, but there will be some big shoes to fill on offense. But the Tigers have come along well during camp. One new key piece is, of course, Garrett Nussmeier finally getting his shot at being QB1. He's had a different style of play from his successor, Jaden Daniels, but we've seen flashes of what he can do over the years.
It's a responsibility and it's a privilege, and it comes with the pressure, and I accept the pressure, but I'm more focused on us as a team and who we want to be identity-wise this year as an offense.
It's been a long time coming. 3 seasons, that is. Garrett Nussmeier finally has the keys to this Tiger offense, and the Nuss bus has taken off for the 2024 season. Staying at one program without starting for 3 years is not common in today's college football, but Nussmeier felt like it was his purpose to be with the Tigers.
I feel like I've always been more concerned about where my feet are and looking at the situation that I'm at and trying to make the best out of it. Like I've said many times, Louisiana's my home. It's where I wanted to be. I feel like God put me here for a reason, and I feel like it was my job just to keep my head down at work and to trust in his plan and let it all work out his way.
Being the backup for 3 years came with some tough love conversations with the LSU coaching staff, but now he's grown in his game to lead his team this season.
We're honest with where he was, excited about the talent and potential that he has and who he is as a player, and I'm assuming he felt himself getting better. Right, and he said, "I'm getting better, and I got an opportunity." I think you've heard it. I think this place means a lot to him. His teammates mean a lot to him.
Garrett plays with a much different style than his predecessor, Jaden Daniels. So this year's offense will look different, but they plan to be just as effective with number 13 under center.
Obviously the offense is different compared to last year. Everyone here knows Nuss isn't gonna, bust down the sideline for 90, every 5 plays, but he very well could. But that's just not, like I said, the style's different. But, it's going to be effective, and we're going to get the job done. We're going to score a lot of points.
Nussmeier may not be the most talked about QB in the SEC heading into the season, but he's learned over the years, and he's ready to prove himself.
I think you still have to be aggressive and confident as a quarterback, but I think what I've learned the most is knowing when and how to take the opportunities and take the shots, and learning when to check the ball down and things like that. So like I said, I feel like I've grown a lot in that aspect. I think that most of that credit goes to Coach Sloan and helping me progress.
Jack, at SEC Media Days and on College Game Day last weekend, Nick Saban said that Garrett is a sleeper in college football. A lot of people look at guys like Carson Beck, but Garrett might really be the most underrated quarterback in the SEC this year. He's expected to have a big year working alongside Joe Sloan and working with the same quarterback coach for most of his career. That sure can help a lot, but now Joe Sloan is more than just his position coach.
Yeah, after Mike Denbrock left LSU at the end of the 2023 season for a job, the same job at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly promoted Joe Sloan and wide receivers coach Cortez Hankton to be the new offensive coordinators. Now LSU Sports Information website has Sloan listed as the OC and Hankton as the co-OC. Sloan will be calling the plays, though. So far, Coach Kelly really enjoying what Sloan brings to the table.
The first thing about being an offensive coordinator is making sure that your staff is weighing in on the things that are most important with their groups. You know, it's not walk in the room and it's my way. But he's been a leader, too. What I'm looking for on game day is certainly let us be who we are, right? I mean, play to our strengths. I think a great offensive coordinator has an understanding that it's not about how many points I score, it's about how do we win the game. And I think Joe is in that mindset of understanding that the offensive coordinator is still about how do we help this team win games, and I'm excited about watching that.
For him to be able to build on that and really make it his own. Again, playing them last year to seeing what we see in the fall, it's not the same offense. It's cool, you know, and I give it credit to him that you know what you know, but he's been able to make it his own and build on what they did last year.
Jack, Joe Sloan has really taken command, and we should see a pretty productive and potent offense this season.
Yeah, I really think it's a continuation of that offense last year. Now let's go out live to Las Vegas, where Sports 2's Michael Cobble is standing by. Michael, what have you seen from Garrett Nussmeier this offseason, and how does Joe Sloan fit into things as the OC?
I mean, I don't think you have to look much further than the bowl game, right, to see what they want to do with him. They want to take some shots down the field. They want to stretch it vertically, but they want to get everybody involved. And when I think of Joe Sloan, that's what I think of. I think of the toolbox that he has to operate with. The guy has running backs that you want, tight ends that you would covet, wide receivers falling out of the sky, you know, and an offensive line that returns 4 starters, all veteran, 2 of the best tackles in the country. I mean, you have a senior quarterback that understands what they're asking him to do. And Brian Kelly said it best. He said, Saints fans, you can appreciate this. Sean Payton was always accused of being too cute. Brian Kelly said, we just need to win the game. I think that's what you're going to see with this LSU offense as it continues to evolve throughout the course of this season. They're going to run the ball. You know, it's something that we've talked about already, but they're going to run the ball because of that offensive line, because of the backs, because of Josh Williams and the trust they have in him. And they're going to get the ball to the backs, you know, on wheel routes, in pass games, things that we haven't seen. So it's not necessarily going to look like last year, but I think they'll still have a lot of that same production. Of course, we are also taking a huge leap of faith that this offense will take these steps forward that we expect them to take. We'll find out here soon enough, Sunday night, though.
Yeah, we did talk about Nick Saban talking about Garrett Nussmeier, but he also said you can shake a tree in Louisiana and find wide receivers all over the place. We'll talk more about that running game, though, later in the show.
Yeah, there's much more about this Tiger defense, like Bree alluded to, that we need to get to. Coming up after the break, we'll dive into what has been named one of the best offensive lines in the country. Stay with us on the LSU Preseason Special.
The Tigers Preseason Special will return shortly. Now, back to the Tigers Preseason Special.
Welcome back to the LSU Football Preseason Special here on WBRZ. Jack Schummel once again joined alongside Bree Andrus as we get you ready for the Tigers' start to the 2024 campaign. Bree, LSU's offensive line last season was a finalist for the Joe Moore Award, and some people think they got robbed when the trophy went to Washington's O-line, even though LSU had the best offense in the country on paper. I think it helps that Washington made it to the national championship.
It definitely does, but the good news is the LSU Tigers returned 4 out of 5 starters from last year's offensive line, and they expect to be just as good, if not better, than a season ago. 3 years ago, Brian Kelly made a gutsy decision by starting 2 true freshmen at left and right tackle. And, well, it paid off. Emory Jones and Will Campbell, now the vets on the O-line, and Campbell may just be the first lineman off the board in next year's NFL draft.
Will Campbell has the size, speed, arm length, experience, and ability to be one of the best offensive tackles in the country this season. But now that his possible final year in the purple and gold has arrived, he stepped up in more ways than one.
When he speaks, he really resonates with our team. And I think he's done that more and more, and it's been really good for us. Because when you have a guy like that is that is so respected by his teammates. When he speaks, people really listen.
Campbell is expected to be an early first-round draft pick after it's all said and done, but he's focused on right now.
I don't really pay attention to much of the outside noise. I mean, I'm worried about these guys in here because, you know, these are the guys who I do it with. And, you know, if we come in here, win a national championship, win a Joe Moore Award, have the best offense in the SEC, the rest of the stuff will take care of itself. But my focus is to, you know, like I said, win a national championship here.
4 out of 5 offensive linemen are returning starters, and Campbell knows how uncommon that is in college football. He thinks that continuity helps them perform at a high level.
You don't really find guys, you know, that have played 3 years next to the same person in the SEC. Usually somebody will end up leaving. So it's really a blessing for us, I think, as not just as for us as individuals, but this team, you know, being able to have those guys. It's a blessing because, you know, whenever you can, you know, take so many reps next to somebody, it's muscle memory now. So I think it's only going to help us.
A Joe Moore Award could be in this O-line's future with Campbell's leadership, but he's also taking things up a notch on the field to help lead his team to more victories.
We're asking him to do some things this year that he hasn't done before. We're pulling him, moving him. You know, we're much more of an inside-outside zone team, and I think that that's going to just heighten who he is as a football player and give him a chance to really, I think, excel at the national level and in the eyes of NFL scouts.
And what better way to prove yourself as an offensive line than to get that run game going? Last year, Jaden Daniels outshined everyone on the ground, and Logan Diggs, LSU's leading rusher behind Daniels, has transferred to Ole Miss. So that room has some veterans, including 6-year seniors Josh Williams and John Emery Jr. And you can't forget about Caleb Williams running over everyone, along with promising freshman Caden Durham. The Tigers are going to lean on all of those guys to push the ball downfield to create more big plays and put points on the board.
We're going to use our playmakers to make plays, right? And if our offensive line has the ability, right, to understand what they're seeing, process that information, and attack it, right, physically and violently, right, and we can put them in different situations to be successful and use their ability, right, to learn, be physical, and to run, we're going to do it. And I think we've been able to challenge them so that we can attack people in a lot of different ways and make sure we can put the ball in the belly of the back a little bit.
We're going to run the ball, so, I mean, that's not something we're hiding or, you know, trying to keep quiet. I'm telling everybody right now we are going to run the football, so you can take what you want with that. And, you know, Caleb, Josh, Caden, all these guys, you know, they're all big, powerful, fast guys, and you know, I'm just excited for them.
Yeah, I said Caleb Williams when I was talking about the running backs, but I definitely meant Caleb Jackson. I've been watching too much Hard Knocks lately, so sorry about that.
It's good stuff.
But there is plenty of experience in LSU's backfield with those 2 6 years, Jack.
Yeah, Bree, I'm really excited to see that guy, sophomore Caleb Jackson, make a big jump in year 2. The Liberty High grad is getting rave reviews from camp, and I think he has the best upside of any of the Tiger backs. Either way, when you get to the middle of the season, the bruises will be there, so the Tigers will need all 3 or 4 of those guys to step up.
Yeah, the Tigers finish off their non-conference slate in Week 5 when South Alabama comes to town, and then they get a bye before the toughest part of their schedule. Number 6, Ole Miss comes to Baton Rouge on October 12th, and then the Tigers go to Arkansas and to Texas A&M in back-to-back weeks. That's going to be really tough.
Yeah, Bree, I think Ole Miss and LSU will put on a show in Tiger Stadium. I'll give the Tigers the edge in that game simply because it's at home, and on the road at Arkansas because who knows if Sam Pittman will actually be the Razorbacks coach then.
Probably not.
But then following it up the next week with Texas A&M, I think will be tough. I know Tigers fans want LSU to win 3 of those games, but 2-1 over that span, I think, isn't the end of the world with the college football playoff.
Exactly, but that O-line and those running backs have to go up against a defensive line that's trying to reinvent themselves from last season. We'll break down all of those changes after the break.
The Tigers Preseason Special will return shortly. Now, back to the Tigers Preseason Special.
We're back for more on LSU's preseason football special. We just established how good this LSU offensive line is supposed to be. The defensive line, though, might have the most to prove out of any position group on this Tiger football team.
Yeah, Jack, not only did this D-line not have a good season last year, they lost production when Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith went off to the NFL. In the spring, though, it seemed like the Tigers just didn't have enough bodies on the field.
Yeah, the Tigers did add Wisconsin transfer Gio Paez and Grand Valley State transfer JVR Suggs, but the most important addition was getting D-line coach Bo Davis from Texas.
Yeah, Bo Davis is regarded as one of the best in the business at coaching the D-line, and that's probably why LSU's paying him over $1 million this year, and he's also got quite the personality.
That's a lot of money. Yeah, Bree, Coach Davis certainly pushes his players. Pretty much every practice, you can hear some expletive-laden rants from Davis after his guys do something he doesn't like. He's trying to create an edge with his players, which is something the line needs, obviously, because as we all know, football starts in the trenches. That edge is something the Tigers definitely did not have last year.
His intensity, I think he cares a lot, and I think if you know anything about Coach Bo, he's going to get it out of you one way or another. And when you combine that with a group of individuals who are hungry and who hear all this doubt, I think something special is to come from that.
The intensity, I'm so used to it that I like. It's just like, how can I listen to what the message is saying, and now like apply that to my game or whatever I did wrong. Like, because it's like when they're yelling at you, it's not that they're yelling at you; they're yelling at the problem.
Yeah, Bree, we've talked a lot about this. The offensive line miles ahead of just about every other position group, including the defensive line. Well, in practice, yeah, the offensive line definitely has showed their strength against the defense.
Yeah, but they haven't won every rep, and it's not really a bad thing for the D-line to go up against the best.
Yeah, and to start believing they can compete against them.
We lose reps. We do lose reps. But I'm saying you got to think about it like this. If you go as hard as you can against the best offensive line in the country, the Saturday nights are going to be that much easier. So that's what, like, even keeping a level head and, like, keep going, just keep going. Like, you know, if you get knocked down, pop back up and run to the ball. Like, just trying to instill, like, that mindset, like, you're not going to see anything better on a Saturday than what you do see out the week.
But I think the biggest thing is, you know, just their energy, you know. Their demeanor coming out to practice every day is just so much different from last year in a good way. You know, they come out juiced up, ready to fight, ready to go, and that's what we need. You know, at the end of the day, it's just a fight in the trenches. I mean, it is what it is. It's not always going to be pretty. You just got to be ready to go in there and get dirty, and that's what they've been doing, so I'm excited for them.
Yeah, we've been talking about all these big guys down low a bunch. They might be wearing some ties before the game, but we know a guy not wearing a tie. That's pretty big.
Yeah, that would be our own Michael Cobble. Cobble, what do you think of this D-line this year? Are they going to be any better?
Yeah, I think they're going to be better. The depth is a concern, right? But the guy that just talked along the defensive line, I think he's the key to how good this defensive line can be. Jacoby Guillory, he sets the tone. He is the man in the middle. He's the biggest, the strongest, according to Brian Kelly. But he's the one that they need the most, too. So how do they get him some breaks? How do they get him off the field and keep him fresh and ready to go for an entire 60 minutes? That will be key. I think that is going to be the tell on how good this defensive line can be going forward.
Thanks, Cobble. After the break, we'll take a look at LSU's last line of defense and how the godfather of DBU is stepping in to turn things around. Stay with us.
The Tigers Preseason Special will return shortly. Now, back to the Tigers Preseason Special.
We're not going away. We're continuing our LSU preseason special here on WBRZ. We've established how bad the Tiger defense was last year. The defensive secondary also especially bad, Bree.
Absolutely. The Tigers allowed 255 yards a game. That's good for 118th out of 133 FBS teams last year, a.k.a. pretty bad. Matt House set the toaster way too high because those guys were getting burnt.
Ouch. So Coach Kelly decided it was time to get back to DBU, or at least DB OK. The Tigers bringing back Corey Raymond to coach corners after he spent the last 2 seasons at Florida. Raymond coached corners at LSU from 2012 to 2021 and is known for his recruiting prowess that's already showing up with multiple commits in next year's class. But LSU needs results on the field this year. Here's Ashton Stamps on the mentality Raymond brings to this DB group.
He's attention to detail with every little thing, like just 1 inch. Like if I mess up on 1 inch of his stuff, you know, even if I get a good play, I might get an interception. He's gonna make it seem like it's the worst play ever, you know. But that's what I like about him. He pushes you hard no matter what. So for example, you know, the play might go to the opposite side of the field, and, you know, I might get beat deep on the go route, but they don't throw it. The quarterback don't see it. So he's like, what if the quarterback does throw it? Like, you know, that's a touchdown. Like, that's not good. So it's just little things like that. That's really helping me going into the season because, you know, you just got to be perfect with everything. Like, everything, you're not going to be perfect, but the mindset is to be perfect. We've had a couple of good days, but we don't really focus on, you know, we're not result-oriented, so it's like we got to keep going. It's that consistency. Like, we can't do it one day, then the next day, you know, we at the bottom, but we just got to keep working.
One of those guys LSU is relying on in the secondary this year is redshirt junior Sage Ryan. He had his most productive season as a Tiger last year with 42 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 5 pass deflections.
Yeah, the former 5-star recruit certainly has the ability to be versatile, and this year LSU wants to use him as the Swiss Army knife of the secondary.
Yeah, we're cross-training him. You know, we got a lot of work. You know, certainly he played corner for us last year, as you know. We wanted the entire spring to be safety, and now we're going to begin that cross-training. So we feel like he'll become, you know, that one player that can play both positions for us.
Yeah, having that versatility will definitely help the secondary. They're probably going to play some young guys like Ashton Stamps, but he did get a lot of playing time last year. And then they're switching things up. They're having Major Burns playing that star position, and then P.J. Woodland also might start as a true freshman at corner.
Yeah, we mentioned Ashton Stamps. We heard from him earlier. Whit Weeks called him CB1 in fall camp. I'm not sure if that's actually going to be true come Sunday against USC, but who knows?
Yeah, but don't go to anywhere because the Tigers have some new faces on the squad, so we'll let you know how a hometown kid is adjusting to the college level.
The Tigers preseason special will return shortly. Now, back to the Tigers preseason special.
We are not going anywhere. Welcome back to the preseason football special right here on WBRZ. Bree Andrews, Jack Schimmel, and Jack, we know about all the veteran guys on the roster, Nuss, Campbell, Perkins, Lacey, all the guys that are expected to have pretty big years for the Tigers.
Yeah, Bree, but Brian Kelly and company went to work this offseason and brought in some fresh new talent that could really be a game changer. There's C.J. Daniels, the transfer from Liberty, who's on the Bolitnikoff Award watch list. The freshman corner, P.J. Woodland, is expected to be a starter, and Gio Paez could be really helpful on the interior defensive line.
Absolutely, but one true freshman might be a new face in the program, but not in the Baton Rouge area. Former Zachary Bronco Trey-Dez Green has impressed what seems like everyone in fall camp. The 6'7" tight end should be used a good bit this season because Joe Sloan has talked about using 12 and 13 personnel with this offense. And you and I have both seen what he did in his senior year at Zachary. I mean, he was absolutely unstoppable. And now that he's in college, there hasn't really been as much of a learning curve, according to BK.
He's picked things up very well for a guy that has not played this game very long. It's coming to him, I don't want to say easy, but it has not been a very difficult transition for him. And that all bodes well for players that are in their first year. My experience has told me that guys that transition quickly with his kind of physical attributes, they tend to show real quick, and you know, he certainly looks the part.
By the end of the season, who knows, Trey-Dez Green might be a household name, Bree.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no regular season games that LSU players really want to play more than the Tigers when they host Alabama.
Yeah, the Crimson Tide come to Baton Rouge on November 9th. Of course, we all know what happened last time the two teams met at Tiger Stadium. Then LSU will play at Florida. It's never easy to go into the swamp, but just like with Sam Pittman in Arkansas, I'm not sure Billy Napier is still the Gators' coach by November 16th. Then the Tigers get a break with Vanderbilt at home before ending the season with SEC newcomer Oklahoma.
And Jack, I think there is a lot of unknown with this part of the schedule. What will Alabama look like in November without Nick Saban? And Florida, like you mentioned, might be without their coach, and possibly the same with Vanderbilt. So we'll see how Oklahoma is doing in its first year in the SEC come the end of November. But that doesn't mean LSU will win the final 4 games. But I do think all of those are very winnable.
I think they are as well. This college football season, though, will be unlike any other. Coming up after the break, we'll round out the show by breaking down the new college football playoff format.
The Tigers preseason special will return shortly. Now, back to the Tigers preseason special.
Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. We're going to finish off the night talking about this new thing in college football. Well, it's an expansion of the old thing. The college football playoff will have 12 teams this year instead of 4. Look at this beautiful graphic we have. And if you don't know how the format will work, we're going to tell you.
Yeah, here's a start. The top 4 conference winners get an automatic bye into the quarterfinals, and then the 5 through 12 seeds will have to play an opening round game.
Now, there will be another guaranteed spot for a conference winner. So with now only 4 power conferences in college football, the group of 5 has a seat at the table. The top group of 5 conference winner will be in. They could be any seed 5 through 12, but I think they will be right here, the 12 seed.
Yeah, Jack, the 7 other teams could come from anywhere. There's no limit to the amount of teams each conference can have in the playoff. And with the expansion this year, the SEC and Big Ten will probably account for most of these teams, especially this top 4 right here. So I think that they could definitely take the top 2 spots in the SEC and take those buys. Georgia and Texas come into the season as the heavy hitters, and Ohio State in the ACC could be in that group as well.
Yeah, I really think it's going to be heavy, like you said, with Big Ten and SEC, and it could be 4, maybe 5 SEC teams in the playoff. Now, these teams will add games to their schedule, obviously. Theoretically, a team could play 17 games this season if they lost their conference championship and then made it to the national championship game, going through all those brackets. So I think it will be interesting to monitor this year how this all works out. LSU fans, don't freak out. I think if they go 10-2 in the regular season, they will find themselves somewhere on here.
Yeah, they don't have to be in the SEC championship, let alone win it, just to make it into the college football playoff. So that's a little bit of a relief off of Brian Kelly and LSU fans' shoulders heading into this year, that they still stand a chance. Last year, they would have been one of the first teams out because they finished the year at 13th overall. So they could just get over that hump just a little bit more. They can make the playoff.
But as we've talked about, Bree, the expectations are high. The bar is set very high for LSU once again this year. The last 3 Tiger head coaches have won national titles, and the standard remains for Brian Kelly.
Absolutely. I don't think BK's job is on the line by any means, but the hype for what has been building should be an improved team. Michael Cobble has covered this program longer than I have been alive. He knows what the expectations are. Cobble, what can this team do realistically this season?
Thanks for that dating reference there, Bree. I certainly feel young and spry right now with that crystallized in my head that I've been covering this team. Yes, this is year 24 of covering the LSU Tigers. As far as this team, I mean, I think you guys laid it out perfectly. It's year 3 under Brian Kelly. They have all the pieces in place for them to be extremely successful. Now, they're going to run into some challenges. There's 4 games on that schedule that they could potentially lose, but I do think they are going to roll through most of those other 8. Now, for LSU, it's about, making the plays in those 4 that put you on the plus side of the ledger. And as I said at the beginning of the show, I think the schedule sets up favorably for the Tigers to ascend and get better on both sides of the ball as they go. One thing we didn't talk at all about, and we should probably point out, is special teams. It could be an absolute game changer for LSU in the negative, and that's something that you're going to see right away against USC. The Tigers are going to have to be clean on that aspect of the game. But as far as LSU goes, games against Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, maybe those are the ones that you really have to wonder about. And closing it out at Oklahoma, closing it out with Oklahoma at home, I think is a great feather in the cap for LSU to potentially propel them into that college playoff talk, because I don't think they'll be in the SEC championship game, but they could be one of those teams that backdoors their way into the playoffs, and we could potentially see a playoff game in Tiger Stadium in December. What more fun could you have than Death Valley in December for a home playoff game the first year they're in existence? I can't wait.
It's definitely going to be very exciting. Thanks so much, Cobble. But I think seeing that playoff game in December in Death Valley will be just amazing.
Yeah, I think it's just so fun to follow this college football season because of all of that we don't know, the new conferences, the new college football playoff. But I guess we'll have more to talk about as the week goes on. That's going to do it for our preseason football schedule, but we have something more coming up, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a pre-game special airing on Sunday where we'll take you all the way to kickoff. That's going to start at 5:30.
For Michael Cobble, Bree Andrews, and myself, thanks for watching and have a great night.